Let's move on and invite our next guest. He's managed to raise over 50 crore rupees during the pandemic at a time when most people are holding on to their cash, and it takes a lot of effort to get an investor to sign a check. Here is Magicpin and his promoter Anshoo Sharma, who's managed to get a check for 50 crore rupees from Samsung Ventures. Hi Anshu, welcome to Startup Central. Congratulations. Tell me a little bit about Magicpin, and let's start with how you convinced Samsung Ventures to sign that check for you.
Yep, let's get to that. Let me just start by telling you about Magicpin, and it's been consistent what we have been up to for the last 5 years now. And this was, by the way, the start of our Series D. So this is not the first time we are raising capital. Of course, Samsung was a new investor in this round. Our mission has always been to drive discovery for offline retail. I think we've heard so much around online retail, but online retail continues to be 5% of the retail market. 95% of the retail market is offline in nature. When we go to a store and purchase, or at least pre-COVID, we used to go to a store and purchase a product or a service. And the amount of technology penetration in that market was fairly limited, maybe primarily to the extent of payments, right? Which too was meaningfully disrupted at the time the demonetization shock came into the system. And I think this is a similar shock, though a much bigger shock that COVID has brought in, which is making the offline retail sit up and take notice as to what else can technology do, or rather, the world has changed and how can technology enable these offline retailers to react to that. I'll come to that in a bit. Before that, in terms of our scale, we were already up to $1.2 billion of GMV as a platform, and we had just started our fundraise process in the context of how we closed this round. Unfortunately, because of this pandemic, we had a meaningful hit on our core business lines, which were around offline retail, A, and B, which were focused on food and fashion, which were the core categories, which took the bigger hit in this duration. Now, what happened as a result was that people stopped going out, but the essentials became a bigger part. So we focused ourselves beyond food and fashion to start monetization on grocery, pharmacies. We brought in that layer. The next layer that we could bring in was an online delivery piece. So I think that goes back to the point I was making previously, that it was a choice in the past in many of the sectors to say, especially grocery, pharmacies, right, that I'll do online. But an offline retailer is happy. Large retailer, small retailer, they all want that to be on their roadmap, but they have the time. But what this environment has done is that it has forced them to take an action now. And internet is almost, for retail, gone ahead by 5 these 3-4 months. Which is something that they've all had to react, and we've had to react alongside. So we've created a delivery layer. So while we were previously connecting users to retailers for offline retail, but now we're connecting users to offline retailers, but also for online delivery. And that was one big layer that we added. So no longer are we saying that we'll just drive footfall to your store, but we'll drive an order to your store from a user in your vicinity, and the order might get fulfilled electronically. And then finally, the last piece that we added, which we realized is very powerful, is that we don't need to bundle marketing alongside our delivery stack. We can offer the delivery stack just like a white label service to all retailers across sectors. I'll touch upon that last. Let me get to the fundraise part first, since you asked me the question there, and then I can talk more about where the fund would get used and how do we think the retailer ecosystem as well as Magicpin would carry on the journey from here onwards. So Samsung had been a great friend for Magicpin over the last...
So from what you're...
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there. So from what you're telling me, you were connecting stores with the sellers, doing this online, offline marriage. 5 years before Paytm jumped on to doing it, 5 years before JioMart started doing it?
I think it's fair to say, Paytm was already fairly big 5 years back. We started our journey around the same time, but of course, Paytm was far ahead of that. Our scale that we've got to, that's come in now. I would say the last couple of years have been transformative in terms of where we've got to with that scale. Also, I think it's fairly important that you mention, for example, Jio, right? It's still going to make far more sense for Jio to just use its offline footprint as well as have a storefront, which is an online one, versus enabling a kirana. We'll see how that story plays out. But if you look at JioMart, what they've come to the market with is much more of a vertically integrated solution than enabling the local kirana. I think solving the local kirana's problem has to be just thought through differently. You can't expect the kirana to have its catalog and inventory. I think that approach has got to be different. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make this the last question then. Anshu, what are you going to do with this 50 crore rupees?
This 50 crore is part of our Series D, which we have initiated now, and Samsung and our existing investors funded the first leg of this. Our goal is primarily to continue our journey that we've been on so far, which is to say, let's continue to enable discovery of offline retail. But now the big piece that we've added is discovery of offline retail, but enabling delivery online. So sitting at home, I can place an order at a local grocer, a F&B shop, or let's say a pharmacy store. What we've also done, and that's been an area of focus for us, is to provide this technology stack, which is a combination of payments, order management system, and fulfillment through a third party to any retailer. And any small retailer can open their store with a white label link within 5 minutes, and they can start to service their neighborhood. It cuts in two ways. One is in case of F&B, where there is already sufficient depth around Zomato and Swiggy providing this online service to merchants, but there's a matter of pricing where they feel that they are really priced super high. We are saying that if you don't need our marketing service, don't take it. Just take the stack, distribute yourself, and any transactions that come to you via that link, we are not going to charge you any commission, zero commission on that. So in that F&B market, it's just a new product which is more efficient for the customer. In case of pharmacies, groceries, they're all waking up to realization that the world is changing and they need to do something about it. In that segment, what we're doing is providing them this technology, initiating them onto the online bank.
So best of luck for that, Anshu. It's been a pleasure talking to you. A lot of exciting times ahead. And clearly, you know, what we said was a new normal during work from home is going to stay as the normal post the pandemic as well. Here's wishing you all the very best. And thanks so much for being a part of Startup Central. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to take a short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side, we're going to touch base with a teenager. This is his second startup. The first one solved the problem of Delhi's pollution crisis, which he sold. He is now on to his second venture. More on that when we return.